Congresswoman Comstock, good to have you with us.
Good morning. Great to be with you, John.
There are several refugee processing centers in Northern Virginia, one in Arlington, one in Falls Church, to name two of them. Are you comfortable with these processing centers accepting Syrian refugees in after what happened in Paris and the fact that one of them sneaked in with a falsified Syrian passport that was part of the attacks? Are you comfortable with taking these people into Northern Virginia?
Well, listen, we're voting on the bill today to change the process and prevent the admission to the U.S. of any proposed Syrian or Iraqi refugees until the nation's top security officials at the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Director of the FBI, and the Director of National Intelligence unanimously certify that they don't represent a security threat. Now, we know, as has been said by many people, that how are you going to get papers and information from Syria, a war-torn country? That's why we need to look at safe zones and things that we can do in the region to help the refugees. We are the best country in the world to help refugees. That does not mean that they have to come here. When we know ISIS has told we've been told by our national security officials that ISIS wants to infiltrate these refugees. They take advantage of these, crisis opportunities to get themselves in. So we need to be first and foremost protecting the safety of the U.S., and then we still can find other ways to be humanitarian, protect the refugees. That does not mean having to bring them into the country until you have all of these checks that admittedly will be very difficult to pass, but we have to protect the homeland first, and we know we're going to have this ISIS threat and the Islamic terrorist threat with us for a long time. We have to start addressing it on many fronts. I think this is just one front we address it on. Other fronts we have to do is we have to make sure we have the best intelligence system, and that's why it's important that we sent to the President the NDAA that we sent yesterday, which requires him to have a strategy to deal with ISIS. We passed the Patriot Act earlier this year, and to make sure we have those tools that the FBI Director, Comey, who I worked with when I was at the Justice Department, he is serious about these things. He has told us, just last month about Iraq war refugees that were able to evade screening and get in here. So that's why we want to increase our security, but do it on many fronts.
All right, so, Congresswoman, the bottom line is you're most likely going to get this legislation out of the House. It's going to be passed probably with some level of bipartisan backing.
Yes, it is a bipartisan bill,
right.
And there's bipartisan support across the country from the governor, and most importantly, from the American people. They understand it's a national security issue,
right,
not a partisan issue.
So then there are two scenarios. One, it goes to the U.S. Senate and dies there because those in favor of this cannot get 41 senators to end cloture for debate.
Senator Schumer,
so it just dies there.
Senator Schumer, who is going to be the Democrats' leader when Harry Reid leaves, hopefully still the minority leader, he has said we need to take a pause. And that's what this bill is. It takes a pause, it requires a new system, and it requires a lot more vetting. And the Congress will have a role in that also under this bill. We have to get these certifications and make sure that everybody in the government has done their job. So Senator Schumer just the other day said we need to have a pause. So I think we will get bipartisan support in the Senate also. You've seen people like the Democrat governor of New Hampshire, who's obviously a very swing state. She's come out and said, we have to be careful with this. So I think you need to listen to the American people, and I certainly am hopeful that the president will.
Well, he's not. He's already said he's going to veto it. So even if it got through the upper chamber, even if they had the debate,
let's not plan for defeat yet.
Well, but look, we've got to ask this question. Otherwise, it's a lot of political positioning and jumping up and down and say, "Look, I signed something, therefore I'm exonerated." It's going to get. But Congresswoman, Barack Obama has said, "I will veto this bill." There's no way you're going to get this veto overridden in the Senate.
I don't know that that's the case at all. I think people are hearing loud and clear from their constituents, but most importantly, we've heard from the president's own officials. The president's problem is with his own officials. The FBI director, Director Clapper, spoke of this ISIS infiltration problem. This is the president's own advisors have already told us about their inability to be able to properly check. So the president's issue isn't with the Democrats. I think the Democrats, you have to remember, a third of these senators are up next year. Every single House member is up next year. And, the president isn't going to be here anymore. His name isn't going to be on the ballot. But the people who are listening to their constituents, who are voting on this today, and hopefully the Senate will be doing so shortly, those people are up on the ballot next year. And I think you are going to see people listen to the American people because the facts are on our side on this. And we are being humanitarian. We are the most humanitarian country in the world in terms of taking refugees and providing care for them. So those safety zones that we can provide, that we can work with our allies in the Mideast, work with our European allies to isolate the problem, to help the refugees while not threatening Europe or the United States.
Congresswoman, do you believe that there is a chance that Barack Obama's veto of this legislation to take a time to review everything and stop the refugees from Syria from coming in, do you think there's a chance that his veto could get overridden in the two houses?
Well, first of all, I think if there is a strong vote, that the president would reconsider. Secondly, if he doesn't, I think he will have his Democrat colleagues as well as Republican colleagues rebuke him because his own administration officials have already come down in terms of their factual assessment on the side of what we are doing. If you look at the careful, I think the careful response that we're putting here, the thorough response. We handed the president the NDAA yesterday. It went to him. Required him to have a policy on ISIS. It said he couldn't bring Gitmo detainees here. Now, I think yesterday the president backed off on it. Hey, we're going to let everyone out of Gitmo, right?
Right.
So let's not, anticipate defeat yet. Let's make the strong factual case that we have on a bipartisan basis with the facts and the quote from the president's own officials saying that they don't have the system in place to properly vet these refugees, and that is why we need to take this pause. And I believe making your case forcefully and strongly like that, President has already backed off on Gitmo, as he should. I certainly, his own Attorney General said the Gitmo detainees cannot come to the United States. He was trying to prepare to do that. Then his Attorney General actually said, whoa, not so fast. You testified to us. Nope, you can't bring them into the U.S. The law doesn't allow that. So let's, have some confidence in our lawmaking ability and in the facts and in the president's own officials who really strongly made the case for us and with us. And I think we'll continue to do that.
So, Congresswoman, we're almost out of time. Final question. It seems to be common sense and logical to anybody that you would simply wait on this program and be sure that you had everything in place, that we couldn't take the risk of having someone come in and blowing up Americans, right? I mean, it was just common sense to wait. Yet,
right, and that's what our bill does.
Right.
Yeah.
That bill makes all the sense in the world. But we just had one of our Virginia senators on, Tim Kaine, on earlier. He said that he would reject that out of hand. We need to move forward with it. And we've got President Obama saying he's going to veto it. In your mind, Congresswoman, what is Obama's objective? What would be where's the downside in just waiting when you could be putting Americans at risk? What is the downside?
Well, first, let me just, you mentioned Senator Kaine. He hasn't voted yet. I think I would encourage your listeners and constituents and people of Virginia to let them know that they think this bill is reasonable, and it is something that allows us to properly vet, allows our intelligence officials to work with us in a collaborative way while protecting the refugees over in the region. So I certainly hope Tim Kaine will be hearing from your listeners. I appreciate him, making his case, but I don't agree, and I certainly hope your listeners will let him know on that. And similarly with the president. The president has changed his mind on how to get more detainees, at least temporarily. And so I do believe in the power of a good idea can often catch even the president here in this case.
All right, we're out of time. We want to thank Congresswoman, 10th District Republican Barbara Comstock, Virginia, for being with us. Congresswoman, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for informing your viewers, giving them all points of view, so now they can let their thoughts be known, and I would encourage them to reach out, and also to understand that we have to go beyond just this policy we're voting on today. We need to make sure we have the strongest national security tools with the Patriot Act, with the National Defense Authorization Bill. And, with these tools, we have to realize we're living with this threat for a long time. It's not JV. We have to defeat ISIS.
Well, I think the second step to this conversation, we'll have you back on, is what is that strategy to defeat ISIS? And I'm not sure sending 50 of our special ops men and women over into harm's way in Syria is really the answer. But right now, we don't have a plan. There's no authorization for war. There's no AUMF. There isn't anything. So we've got to come up with a plan, I believe, and hopefully the next time we have you on.
Well, that is required in the bill that we sent to the president, that he put together that plan, and will be having congressional oversight on talking about that plan. And I think given this president's really feckless foreign policy, that he created a lot of these, I would say contributed to a lot of these crises, and not in a good way. We are going to have to see new presidential leadership, and I think that discussion obviously is ongoing for another day, but that is, but it really can't wait, so that's why we are starting today with this vote.
All right. Thanks for being on. Congresswoman Barbara Comstock from the 10th District Republican of Virginia, all over this. So we want to thank her for being there.